We're right now seeing the creation of the Atom economic zone, a new era for the Cosmos Hub and a new paradigm for Atom as an asset. And one giant piece in that puzzle is going to be Neutron, the very first Atom-secured partner chain and a smart contract platform that is optimized for DeFi. Neutron is a permissionless and the most secure CosmWasm-enabled smart contract platform. And why is it the most secure? Well, because it inherits Cosmos Hub security. And right now there's roughly 200 million Atom securing the Cosmos Hub. The concept for shared security on the Cosmos Hub in its current form is called replicated security. Why replicated? Well, because the Cosmos Hub validators basically have to replicate their infrastructure to also secure other chains that are now renting security from the Cosmos Hub. So you basically replicate the entire validator set onto a new chain. In exchange for providing that service, there's obviously an economic incentive for validators such as Cryptocito, which is my own validator, to actually do that, right? And the incentive was outlined in the proposal in the NTRN tokenomics paper, which says that 25% of transaction fees and MEV revenue on Neutron will be accrued as value back to Atom. Since Neutron has their own token, NTRN, which we're going to look into tokenomics in a second, 7% of the initial Genesis supply will be given out as an airdrop to the Atom community. After talks with the team, they also told me that they're working on an ST Atom implementation so that ST Atom holders will also get the airdrop. However, in my opinion, the strongest value proposition for Neutron on the Cosmos Hub and its strongest value accrual mechanism for Atom is actually something that's more hard to measure, which is that they will bring massive DeFi applications and utility for the Cosmos Hub as a chain, but also for Atom as an asset. So they will really foster Atom's role as money in Cosmos and also to be used as collateral in DeFi, for example, and also as a liquidity gateway into Cosmos. So I think those combinations with the airdrop, the revenue share, but also just the utility the chain itself brings to the Cosmos Hub is a very, very interesting combination of value accrual mechanism. Now that you understand roughly how shared security works on the Cosmos Hub and why Neutron is a big deal, let's dig a little bit deeper into the origin story. Neutron came to life sometime in summer of 2022, and the team behind Neutron is actually the P2P validator team. And P2P validator are actually OG cosmonauts. They've been around since the Cosmos Hub Genesis, and they've been core contributors now for many years in Cosmos. But not only in Cosmos, also they are the team behind Lido. And Lido is a multi-billion-dollar liquid staking solution, predominantly on Ethereum, that has strong product market fit and extreme utility and brand awareness all over crypto. So these guys definitely know how to run multi-billion-dollar crypto protocols. What happened with Lido is that it originated with P2P and then they spun out and have obviously their own team now, and they're obviously giant. And the same is happening right now with Neutron. So Neutron also originated from P2P, but they are now also spinning out and will have their own entity, their own organization, their own team, their own treasury, and all these kind of things. As of right now, 17 people are on the Neutron team, out of which 14 are engineers. One of the core people at Neutron is 0xSpade on Twitter, and he is a very accessible, very smart and hardworking person that I got to meet a couple of times, but also talk to on multiple spaces on Twitter. There's also Mike, who is a Go and Rust senior developer, and many more on the team. Now, the origin story for Neutron actually dates back to Proposal 72, which passed in July of 2022, requesting 150,000 atoms to build out the interchain security or consumer chain landscape on the Cosmos Hub. One of the teams that was granted Atom from this pool is actually the Neutron team, but we're going to look into how these funds were spent on chain in a second. So proposal 72 passes, Neutron gets this initial bootstrap funding from the Atom treasury governed by the Cosmos Hub community. Then proposal 792 happens, which is going to launch Neutron as the very first Atom secured consumer chain or partner chain. This proposal was actually the result of many weeks and months that the proposal was being discussed with the community. It was in draft mode on the forum, and actually 2 community feedbacks were embedded into the proposal that is now on chain. The first one is a soft opt-out for the bottom 5% of the Cosmos Hub validators. So these bottom 5% validators, they don't have to run extra infrastructure, because you have to imagine that means you have to run a new node, run new sentries, you have increased HR cost, right? Labor cost. So your infrastructure cost doubles, but you're not going to make meaningful revenue. So you're actually running at a loss, and you're now running even at a further loss. To mitigate that, these bottom 5% validators, which is around 60 validators on the Cosmos Hub, they will still earn rewards, but they don't have to run the infrastructure. Cryptocito, we're somewhere ranked on 45, so we will have to run a node and double our infrastructure for Neutron. The second implementation is that Airdrop, which I mentioned, 7% of the Genesis supply for NTRN is allocated for the Cosmos Hub community. Unclaimed Airdrop tokens will actually be sent back to the Cosmos Hub treasury and not to the Neutron treasury, because Neutron will also have its own treasury. But the airdrop will go entirely to the Cosmos Hub, and then the community can decide whatever they want to do with it. Now, the road to mainnet for Neutron is the following. Proposal 792 passes. Neutron will then reach its spawn time on Monday, the 8th of May. And when then 67 or 2/3 of the voting power is online, the chain will start to produce blocks. Let's actually look a little bit deeper into what problem they're solving, right? Neutron is in the interchain DeFi space. So what they're doing is implementing interoperable and permissionless and interchain secured smart contracts. Permissionless means smart contracts can launch in Neutron without being gate capped or whitelisted by governance, right? Overall, that makes Neutron a neutral place, also in the spirit of the Cosmos Hub, for any application to be built on top of it. And then eventually all these applications on top of Neutron are obviously secured by Atom. Now let's look into the network architecture. How is Neutron actually built? Neutron is built using the Cosmos SDK, Tendermint Proof of Stake, and CosmWasm as their smart contract platform. Also, they will make heavy use of interchain queries, interchain accounts, and IBC, the Inter-Blockchain Communication Protocol. That means smart contracts on Neutron can query, transact, and manage accounts in remote zones directly from Neutron. What interchain accounts are doing is they let Cosmos chains control accounts or wallets on remote zones using IBC. This allows the creation of dApps that run on Neutron and all chains connected to it via IBC. The end result of that is obviously better UX, because users don't have to think or don't have to know which chain they're actually on. Interchain queries is also an innovation made in Cosmos, which lets developers securely retrieve data from remote zones via modules and IBC. Neutron's implementation is unique because it uses smart contracts instead of modules to process raw data into elegant data structures. When it comes to governance, Neutron also aims to implement the most cutting-edge governance structures that are out there. Neutron's governance system is actually multi-layered and modular. The top layer is also known as Agora, or the main DAO, is governed by Neutron stakeholders through the NTRN token. There's also the core utility for NTRN. In order to obtain voting power in Neutron's governance system, users must bond NTRN or DeFi tokens containing NTRN. The voting power is calculated using dedicated smart contracts called voting walls, and Neutron's governance seeks to minimize the number of proposals that users are required to vote on by delegating some of the work to specialized committees. There are two types of vaults where you can deposit in order to obtain voting power. There is a pure NTRN vault, which accepts NTRN deposits to grant 1 point of voting power per token without lockup. And there are LP token vaults that are functioning similar to superfluid staking on osmosis. And these vaults accept LP token deposits and count the underlying NTRN token. And if that all sounds familiar to you, then you might be right, because the Neutron governance is based on DAO contracts with some modifications. But in fact, it consists of two parts, the Neutron DAO and then multiple sub-DAOs, right? Now let's talk about what you're probably mostly interested in, which is NTRN tokenomics. And as I said, NTRN is not required for staking to secure the chain, because that's already what Atom does, but its main utility is transaction fees, MEV capture, but also governance, as I just outlined. The Genesis supply is 1 billion coins, and it will be distributed as follows. 23% are reserved for the founders, 11% are reserved for early backers, 12% for the community, and 54% go to the Neutron DAO. And 7% of the Genesis supply will be allocated for an airdrop. And the airdrop is split up into two parts. The first one is that 4% or 40 million NTRN tokens will be allocated to Atom stakers. You are required a minimum of 1 Atom to stake. So if you have less than 1 Atom, your wallet is not considered, and a maximum or a well cap of 1 million atoms. And then 3% or 30 million NTRN will go to Cosmos Hub Proposal 72 voters, regardless of what you voted. And also, if you delegated to a validator that voted on behalf of you, you're also considered, as of my understanding. So that's really cool. Snapshot was November 19th of 2022. And that's why it's also always extremely important, as I keep saying to you guys, please choose your validator wisely. Don't delegate to any centralized validators like Coinbase, Kraken, Binance, right? Because these guys are either excluded from the get-go, which is also the case here with Neutron, or they are just not voting, so they're not really active in governance anyways. The funds they got from Proposal 72, which are actually 25,000 atoms, they have not been used yet. They're actually staked and delegated, right? It's going to be interesting to see what they will do with these funds, but I think it's just important, and this is accessible public information for everybody. You can verify that on chain. How will Neutron attract applications? And which applications are going to launch on Neutron from day one? There's a long list of projects that will launch on Neutron from the get-go. Now, the first one is the flagship DEX of Neutron, which is going to be Astroport. And Astroport will also have potentially deep liquidity from early days in combination with Stride's liquid staked Atom, because there is also a proposal to do 450,000 atoms to be provided as liquidity and match that with ST Atom to have very deep liquidity from early days. The second application, which I think is extremely interesting, and I think Neutron might also take the concept of outposts to the next level, is Cosmos Swap. And Cosmos Swap is actually an outpost of osmosis on top of Neutron. So what you basically have is osmosis DEX that has another front end basically on another chain. And that's only possible in Cosmos. And what you will have is you're a Neutron user, you are a Neutron, but you want to tap into osmosis liquidity. You don't have to leave Neutron. You don't have to make a manual IBC transfer. You stay in Neutron, you make your trade, you provide liquidity, whatever you do. And on the back end, behind the scenes, through IBC predominantly, that will trigger all the backend infrastructure that has to happen to make that trade, to provide that liquidity on the osmosis chain, which will be settled there. But it will also mean that there's transaction fees accrued on Neutron, which also trickles down to Atom. Also, we're going to have integrations with UMI, which is a lending protocol, as well as Mars, which is also a lending protocol. We're going to have Apollo deployment, Croncat, Skip protocol, which is an MEV module. We're going to have Nolos, which is a DeFi money market, Kato money for fiat on-ramp, a Stargaze outpost, which means NFT marketplace is coming to Neutron. Also rumors about DAO entirely migrating to Neutron. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but it would be very interesting. And also rumors around Gitcoin and TimeWave, which is basically the interchain allocator as outlined in Atom 2.0. Accounts to follow if you want to learn more about Neutron are right here. And if you appreciate that video, please leave a like, leave a comment, give me feedback, and also let me know which other projects in Cosmos you want me to cover next year on my channel. That said, stay safe guys, be good, and I'll see you on the next one.